This episode of Kobe Explains is brought to you by Keeps. Spirit Airlines has become somewhat of a meme. Flying the carrier is rarely seen as a good thing. It's often compared to painful experiences like going to the dentist or the DMV. But despite its reputation, Spirit's done some pretty awesome things for the American consumer. Its cheap fares have significantly lowered the barrier of entry for flying domestically. But all good things must come to an end, and in Spirit's case, its ultra-low fares may soon disappear. And that's because its upcoming merger with Frontier seems poised to make flying in the States more expensive. Let me explain. Real quick, folks, I just wanted to announce that I'm hiring. I'm looking for both a video editor and a graphic designer. So if you think you're qualified and want to work with me, I've put a Google form in the description for you to fill out. I frankly have way too many video ideas and not enough time to make them all. And this should help improve the quality of the content and increase the regularity of my uploads. Of course, hiring good people is expensive, so I could really use your help to fund it. I've long had a Patreon and just added channel memberships here on YouTube, and if just 1% of you guys supported me on those platforms, I could probably hire 4 to 5 people and maybe even quit my job. So please consider either applying or contributing, and I look forward to making this channel even better. First, let's talk about the specifics of the Frontier Spirit deal. The merger, which is listed at $6.6 billion, is primed to create the 5th largest airline in the US. In the deal, Frontier will come out as the controlling group, meaning this new mega carrier will almost certainly fly under its name and branding, rather than Spirit's. And given just how negatively people view Spirit, that's probably not a bad idea. Immediately following the announcement, Ted Christie, Spirit's CEO, stated that, quote, "This transaction is designed to better serve our guests." Now, the vast majority of travelers make their purchasing decision based on fare price. And given Spirit's low-cost value proposition, I think most people will interpret this statement to mean that the merger will make tickets cheaper. At first glance, this seems totally plausible, helping to drive down fares across the whole industry, not just at Frontier. You see, both Frontier and Spirit focus on serving underutilized airports in secondary markets. Doing so helps them secure cheaper landing fees, savings that can be passed off to their customers. But this approach also means that you won't find either airline competing on many of the country's most profitable routes between major hubs that see high year-round passenger volume. This merger could change the equation. Frontier can now mix and match its most valuable slots with Spirit's and create direct flights between more of these premier destinations. For instance, Frontier can take its slots at SFO and match them to Spirit slots at LaGuardia and Newark, challenging the US legacy carriers on this hugely profitable route. And if you've ever taken Econ 101, you'll know that an increase in competition should lead to lower prices. Carriers like Delta, United, and American may have to lower their fares in response, as to not hemorrhage customers to Frontier. Unfortunately, this hypothesis neglects one big variable. Frontier and its product offerings are not a direct replacement for the legacy carriers. That starts in business class, where American, Delta, and United make most of their money. Despite accounting for just 12% of a plane's total seats, premium cabins can generate up to 75% of an airline's revenue. But neither Spirit nor Frontier offer a business class product, so their expansion onto these routes won't threaten this critical revenue stream. But the differences don't stop there. Their economy classes aren't very comparable either. Let's contrast United and Frontier to better understand why. United's basic economy fare, which is their cheapest ticket, includes 1 free carry-on, free snacks and drinks, free in-flight entertainment, no change fees, and at least 31 inches of legroom. Now compare that to Frontier, who offers none of those perks and whose planes have much less legroom, and you realize these products are not interchangeable. Simply put, Frontier and Spirit have carved out a niche by being as bare bones as possible, targeting cost-sensitive flyers who are willing to pack light and fly hungry to secure a cheap seat. And while it's still true that most flyers do care a lot about price, many will still refuse to make these trade-offs. What I'm driving at here is that Frontier's target market is different from those other airlines. As such, the legacy carriers will have no need to drop prices, since its customer base largely won't view this new entrant as a viable alternative. And even if these carriers did drop prices, it would probably be a bad luck for their brands. Delta, United, and American have always tried to come off as more premium, and dropping prices would be an acknowledgement that their products aren't so different than Frontier's after all. Given the kind of reputation Spirit and Frontier have, I'm sure these carriers don't want to create the perception that there's parity between their products. Okay, so if Spirit and Frontier don't really compete with these airlines, then who do they compete with? Well, that's the thing. Now that they've merged, they don't really compete with anyone. Take a look at this graph showing the average fare price of the US's 6 cheapest airlines. If you exclude Allegiant, who's a fairly small player, you can see there's a big gap between Frontier, Spirit, and the rest of the low-cost industry. This gap is so big that Forbes doesn't even classify these airlines as low cost. They're in their own ultra-low cost category. Now, if you're particularly cash conscious, having the choice between Spirit and Frontier was great. The competition forced fare prices lower. But now that these rivals have teamed up, there's nothing to keep prices in check. They can now start to charge more for tickets, and its target customers will have no cheaper alternative to turn to. Now, don't get me wrong, we aren't going to see Frontier's prices jump hundreds of dollars. After all, their business still relies on them undercutting the rest of the low-cost market. However, the gap between it and Southwest is sizable, and I think this gap is going to close. Doing so helps Frontier remain the cheapest option out there, while also increasing their profit margins. Obviously, this isn't great news for your average consumer, but the consumer might be spared if the Department of Justice blocks the deal. In the past couple of decades, there has been massive consolidation amongst US airlines, which has decreased competition significantly. And the Biden administration is wary that further consolidation could make the problem worse. As a matter of fact, Biden's DOJ already blocked an American and JetBlue merger last year. Reuters insiders believe a similar thing could happen here, since Frontier will be hard-pressed to prove the merger will actually benefit consumers. However, such proceedings tend to take a long time, and the whole process is usually rife with bureaucracy and politics. So we're just gonna have to wait and see whether or not this deal's allowed to go through, and just how much it might hurt our wallets. So I'm flying Spirit for the first time in a few weeks, and I'm a little bit nervous. If you guys have ever flown Spirit before, let me know your experience in the comments. I'm eager to see what I'm actually in for here. And thanks again to Keeps for sponsoring today's video. If you don't know Keeps, they are the easiest way to keep your hair. A staggering 66% of men will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35, and Keeps is on a mission to prevent you from being one of those people. The whole process is super easy, and the best part is you never have to leave your home to do it. Keeps will connect you online with a licensed physician who will assess your hair loss situation. Based on that assessment, Keeps will then send you clinically proven treatments that are specifically tailored to your needs and can stop hair loss in its tracks. They'll even send your prescriptions straight to your doorstep, saving you monthly trips to the pharmacy. If you're one of the millions of men who are feeling insecure or worried about your hair loss, you can take action today. Simply go to keeps.com/Kobe to get started on saving your hair. Thank you so much to my patrons for helping to make this video possible. If you'd like to join the Patreon community and help this channel to grow, go ahead and check out this link right here. And as always, if you learned something new today, leave a like and subscribe to keep learning. And until I see you again, don't forget to look up.